Hey friends, Chubby Meeple. Back to today, we're just going to discuss Gen Con 2024. Happened last weekend, as I'm recording this video. Happened last weekend, August 1st through the 4th, I believe it was, or the dates. I'm here in Indianapolis, Indiana. Record-breaking year for Gen Con. Sold out all 4 days, sold all the 4-day badges, all the VIP stuff was sold out. They had over 71,000 attendees at the convention this year, which blew the record out of the water. Over 540 different exhibitors and vendors at the show, which is phenomenal, gives gamers lots of opportunities to check new things out. The Artist Alley, which is normally, or not normally, it's there every year, but the Artist Alley this year seemed to be larger than it has been in past years. Artist Alley is a very popular, it's kind of a very fun way for artists, little unknown artists or even well-known artists to come in, show off their artwork, their prints, those kind of things, sell those, get a lot of times they're signing them, which is very cool. So that was very fun to see, just the crowd. I remember, so Thursday, when I got in there, Wednesday I went down there on kind of day zero, if you will. I had to help get set up for the booth that I was working, get stuff delivered to the booth, pick up our exhibitor packets, all that stuff on Wednesday. Thursday morning came around, and I spent most of the day Thursday working in the booth for the company that I work for full-time as my normal day job. I'm in the sales department for Ludofact USA, board game and jigsaw puzzle manufacturer. It's located in Indiana, here in the U.S., and we produce board games and jigsaw puzzles. We also do some rigid boxes, like empty boxes for candy companies, car parts, those kinds of things. But I spent the day working the booth most of the day on Thursday. We were handing out, showing off some of the stuff that we've made, and then also handing out flyers. And one of the things that we do that we're becoming more and more well known for is custom jigsaw puzzles. So being able to go to a website, upload your picture, picture of yourself, family, kids, pets, anything like that, and then be able to turn that into a jigsaw puzzle, either a 100-piece, 500-piece, or a 1,000-piece, and be able to, either keep it working on yourself, or they make great gifts as well. So we were passing out flyers the entire show so that folks could go to the website and save 50% if they put a puzzle, they upload a photo, did a custom puzzle with that. Do it by the end of August, they can save 50% on that. I'll give you the website information. It's mypuzzle.com. I'll put it on the screen. You'll probably see it down here. Mypuzzle.com. And if you add into the cart, if you didn't get a flyer at Gen Con, don't worry about it. If you weren't at Gen Con, don't worry about it. If you go to mypuzzle.com, upload your photo, pick your puzzle piece count, 100, 500,000 piece. Enter the code GenCon24, all one word, no space or anything like that. You'll save 50% off that puzzle, so you can get a feel, look at it, take a look. So kind of a shameless plug for my day job. But anyway, on Thursday, when I did have some time to peruse the hall a little bit, I stopped by the Devere booth and got a brief demo of the new kind of the hotness that was there at Gen Con, Rock Hard 1977. This is a game published by Devere Games, designed by Jackie Fox, who was the bass player, I believe, if I'm recalling correctly, the bass player for the Runaways. So it's a game about kind of being an up-and-coming rock star in the late 70s, something Jackie has experience with, lived that life. And so it's a worker placement game, essentially, where you're placing your worker in different places. You have to work your day job to earn some money, and then spend that money to, rent studio time, those types of things, and be able to eventually get up and play these big arenas and, earning prosperity and popularity, and basically fame points. Really like the look and feel of this game. I haven't actually had a chance to play it yet as I'm recording this. My hope is to be able to play it tomorrow. We'll see if that works. But essentially, it's a worker placement game. What I really like about it is the presentation of this game. You have a player board that has your rocker that you're playing as slotted in, but your dials, you have three different metrics, if you will, the three different categories of your tracking stats. Your chops, your songs, and I don't remember what the other. There's a third one. I'm completely blanking. Like I said, I haven't played the game yet. But what's really cool is those the pieces that you're using to track those are dials, like you would see on a guitar amplifier. And so you turn those all the way up. They do go to 11. I saw on that, which is kind of cool. So hopefully I'm going to play that. I did pick it up. More about that in a second. Then, as I was walking around the hall, I happened to walk past the Restoration Games booth. I'm a big fan of Restoration Games. Love the stuff they've done with Return to Dark Tower, bringing back old things like Thunder Road, Vendetta. It's been fantastic. Hits a table a lot. We love the chaos of that. And we're big Unmatched fans in this house. Love Unmatched. Love being able to compete, mix and match all of the characters. We've got, I think the only set we don't have at this point is the Buffy the Vampire Slayer set. If I'm correct on that, but being able to mix and match those characters, and was really happy when they released Unmatched Adventures to be able to play it cooperatively, because my wife and I love to play cooperative games. Being able to play a cooperative game in the Unmatched universe using that card play was so exciting. So I was thrilled to walk past the Restoration Games booth and see that coming to Kickstarter in September of this year, so here about a month away, sometime about a month, they are releasing Unmatched Adventures Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Now that, I'm super over the moon about this. I think this is going to be fantastic. I'm a giant Ninja Turtles fan. I grew up watching the cartoons when I was a kid, watched all the movies. In fact, fun fact about me, my very first concert that I ever went to in my lifetime was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. They had this really crazy, I'm sure there are videos out there, maybe there aren't, it's so long ago. But back when the movies were out and they were popular and they were singing and dancing and you had Vanilla Ice showing up and singing Go Ninja, Go Ninja, Go. They did a tour where they literally went out. You had the Turtles in costume on stage, and they were basically fighting Shredder using the power of music. It was a goofy little show. That was the first concert I ever went to. But anyway, this Unmatched Adventures Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, you're going to have all four turtles, of course, so Donatello, Michelangelo, Raphael, and Leonardo. And the box says that your enemies are Shredder, Krang, and then the box says and minions, and there's two little like black lines on the box. I'll put a picture up here so you can see it. So I believe there's going to be some other minions, maybe Bebop, Rocksteady, who knows, we'll see what happens. And I'm sure there's stuff that's going to get unlocked or announced as the Kickstarter campaign goes on. There will probably be either stretch goals or there'll be daily unlocks, something like that. I don't know, nothing's been announced yet, but it looks like they're the box also doesn't have anything like card counts or anything like that on it, so it leads me to believe there will be some extra stuff that will be included in this Kickstarter campaign. So that's super exciting. Looking forward to picking that up. Thursday night, didn't do any gaming Thursday night as planned. We usually do gaming in the evenings. Didn't get around to it on Thursday just because we had a later dinner with my work, with the folks that I work with in my day job, and just went home to rest up for the next day. I was driving back and forth. I live about, 35 minutes away from the convention center. So we were driving back and forth every day. I didn't mess with the hotel and all of that. Maybe next year I will. Who knows? Because driving was a lot. Friday rolls around. Friday was my shopping day. I got it. I had some things on my list. I was able to get everything on my list that I wanted. So the things that I picked up on Friday. I picked up Comic Hunters. Comic Hunters was a game that was in Brazil originally, used the actual comic book covers from Marvel comic books from decades, spanning decades, everything from the 60s through the 2000s. And this game was in Brazil. It's being brought to the States by Arcane Wonders in partnership with Spin Master. And so I picked up a copy of it at Gen Con. You can get it now. It's at your local Barnes & Noble if you're interested to check it out. Comic Hunters is a drafting game, kind of a set collection game where you're collecting comic books, and all your cards that you have in your hand have different comic books, literal actual comic book covers that you saw in classic Marvel comics. So you'd have, Giant Size X-Men #1 and those kinds of things. But what's cool about this game, what I love about it is you play 3 rounds, and in each of those rounds, you're going to use 3 of the 4 different drafting methods. So you're going to be essentially drafting and acquiring these comic books through different means. One drafting method is a normal draft. You get dealt 4 cards, you keep 1, you pass the other 3. You take the 3 from the person to your right, you pick 1, you pass, and you keep doing it until you have 4 cards. And then those 4 cards make up, they go in your hand. You have 4 cards in your hand. The other way you can do it is there's an auction, and so there are cards that get laid out in rows, and on your turn you can either start the bidding, you can either pick one of the rows that's on the table and start the bidding on that particular row, and that's a typical auction. You're spending money to buy that row of cards. Once you've won a bid, you're out of that round, so you're only going to win 1 row of comic books, and you only have $15 to spend over through that in that auction, and you're going to do that auction twice over the course of the game, and your money is cumulative. So if you spend all $15 in the first auction, you won't be taking part in the last auction because you don't have the money to spend in that second. So you'll want to keep that in mind. There's also a method where the cards are laid out in kind of a 5x5 grid with one missing in the middle, and when it comes your time to pick, you actually can slide. You can move one card around in this grid, and then you choose to draft either a complete row or a complete column of cards. And what you're essentially trying to do is you're collecting these cards. You're trying to collect sets of heroes. So you want to get all of Hulk, all Spider-Man, all Captain America. You want to get things like #1 issues, what they call key issues, kind of your big star issues. So there'll be things like first appearances of characters, those kinds of things, and then versus issues. So if you have two big heroes like a Wolverine versus Hulk, would count as a versus. You got Captain America versus Iron Man from the old Civil War comic books. That counts as a versus issue. And so you're collecting these things and you're going to score, and your scoring is variable. So at the start of the game, you're going to throw out the eight hero icons are going to be placed on the board randomly, with one of them being worth more. In the full 4-player game, you set up 1, 3, and 4, I believe it is, in rows. So your one hero will be worth the most points. There will be 3 heroes that'll be worth the second most, and then the 4 leftover heroes will be worth the least amount of points, but still worth points. You also get points for having varied sets. So if you have so while you're trying to collect, all Black Panther, all Hulk, to be able to score large amounts of points for having, that consecutive set, you also can score points for having a varied collection and having different heroes. So if you get one of each hero, you're going to max out your points that way. And those comics will obviously count for both. So if I have a bunch of Hulk comics, I don't have to choose to count them toward just Hulk or count them toward the varied set. I can score for both. And you also score points for that set collection of versus #1 issues and key issues, based on how you are, how many of you, if you've collected the most verses, for example, than the other players, you get the most points, and it kind of ticks down from there. So very cool game. I absolutely loved it. I got to play the Brazil version quite a few months ago with a game group here that I have. Someone that came to the group had the Brazil version, had printed off English language rules that were printed off of Board Game Geek, so we were able to play it. Loved it, so was super excited to pick that up. That was from the Spin Master booth that was having it. While I was at the Spin Master booth, I don't know if you can tell or not, but I'm kind of a fan of Marvel United. Days of Future Past, hanging out over here, kind of off camera. And up here above, you can't see it, but I've got Deadpool up here. The Deadpool. Let's see if I can get Wade to come down and visit us without causing an issue. So, as you can tell, I'm a little bit of a fan of Marvel United. Spin Master also was selling a promotion, basically a box of promos called Witching Hour. This added Scarlet Witch as a villain, a playable villain character, and added Agatha Harkness as a anti-hero. So you could play her as a hero and a villain. You had the cards to do that. And then they also included in the box, there were various sets previous to conventions where they were giving out decks of cards that allowed you to play, Mr. Sinister as a hero, or some of the Hulks you could play as villains. There were various things that were going out at different conventions previous to Gen Con, and in this box they included the miniatures to go with those, as well as the cards if you hadn't picked up those particular promotions, which I had not picked up any of those. So I was excited to pick up more Marvel United. As you can tell, like I said, I'm a big fan. I've got the original campaign, the X-Men campaign, Multiverse is on the way. So lots of stuff to play there. Rock Hard 1977. We're going to jump to the DeVere booth. That's another game I picked up on Friday. We talked a little bit about it when I was talking about through the demo, running through worker placement, being able to collect, you're trying to be a rock star, collect the most fame points over the course of, I believe it's 9 rounds. And so that was that game is gorgeous. It's a beautiful production. It's super hot right now. I'm hoping I get a chance to play that here very soon. Hopefully tomorrow at game night. Who knows? As I was heading back to the booth where I worked for Ludofact, I went past Kesco, and they have a lot of anime style games there. I stopped and took a brief look at the One Piece. I believe it's called Luffy's Bento, something along those lines. There were demos being run there. I couldn't quite get up because I was on my way back. However, I quickly picked up from their booth, I did pick up the Spy Family Mission for Peanuts game. This was a game that I played a prototype version of last Gen Con with some friends. Enjoyed the gameplay of it. It's essentially a Love Letter-esque kind of game where you're trying to get the Forger family from the Spy Family anime together. Side note, if you've not seen Spy Family anime, even if you don't like anime, find a way to watch Spy Family. I believe it's on Hulu. I believe that's where we watch it. I know it's on Crunchyroll. If you're an anime fan, you've got Crunchyroll more than likely. You've probably already seen Spy Family. If you're not an anime fan though, and you've not seen Spy Family, highly recommend it. It's great. It's a family. It's basically the father figure of the family is a spy, and he's trying to prevent a war between two countries, and he's sent on a mission to essentially infiltrate this school for elite students so they can get invited to this parent night, essentially because he's trying to spy on a rival, one of the rivals, to make sure that they're not plans to attack, those kinds of things. But in doing this, he's a single guy, so he has to create a fake family. So he has a fake wife, and they've got a fake daughter. The fake wife that he is an assassin. He doesn't know she's an assassin. She doesn't know he's a spy, which is great. They basically have a marriage for convenience, if you will. And then the little girl that they get from the orphanage to be their daughter, their kind of fake daughter, is actually a telepath and can read both of their minds. They don't know she's a telepath. The little girl knows that mom is a spy or is an assassin, knows that dad is a spy. And so she can read their minds and everything. And then they have a family dog named Bond who can see into the future. But the only one who knows the dog can see into the future is the little girl because she can read the dog's mind. It's hilarious. There's so much hijinks. The action is really fun as well. Highly recommend that. That was a sidebar. Spy Family Mission for Peanuts is a card game. Like I said, it's love letter-esque. So you have a card in your hand. You have a role that you're going to play, that you're playing as. So you're going to play a card down as a role, so you'll be a character from the show that'll give you a special ability. Your cards are also characters from the show, and essentially what you're trying to do is between the 3 cards, the 2 cards in your hand, and the role card that's laying on the table in front of you, you're trying to collect the Forger family. So you're trying to get mom, dad, and the little girl together, and that will end the round immediately, just like kind of like having someone discard the princess in a love letter. You'll end the round, you'll score the most points, and points are in the form of peanuts, which is the daughter's favorite food. The daughter Anya loves peanuts, so this is the mission for peanuts. You're trying to acquire the most peanuts, and you play to a certain number of peanuts over a set number of rounds. Very similar to like playing a large game of love letter where you're playing to gain 4 heart tokens. This one, I believe, you're playing to 4 peanuts, and so but the characters all have special abilities. There are things that let you take cards out of other people's hands, but if you happen to take the assassin card, she assassinates you and knocks you out of the game. So there's all kinds of fun stuff there. I really enjoyed the prototype version that I played last Gen Con, so when I saw it for sale this Gen Con, I had to have it because I love Spy Family and I love Love Letter, so it's fun. Also, heading back to the booth, Spy Family. So my planned Gen Con shopping was Comic Hunters, Marvel United Witching Hour, Rock Hard 1977. Those are the only 3 things I intended to buy. Spy Family, Mission for Peanuts was kind of an impulse buy when I walked past the booth. The other impulse buy, I went past the Devious Weasel booth. These are the publishers of Cosmic Frog. I love all the goofy hijinks that their games have. And there I picked up a little card game called Murray the Asshole Frog. This is a card game where you are working to collect sets of flies in swarms, essentially. So you're trying to collect flies that all have the same value or are all the exact same fly. And you're scoring points for these. At the end of the game, you'll score points for what you have. The way the game works is you shuffle up the deck of cards, you deal out the hand of cards to players. And then you flip up the top 3 cards to form what they call the pond. And the pond has, your different flies in it. Some of the flies are common flies that are only used to create swarms. Some of the flies are special flies that have special abilities. So there's a fly that lets you, take cards from other players. There's a card that lets you, kind of say no to someone playing a card and kind of cancel the effect of their card when they play it. And that's the one card you can play when it's not your turn. But throughout the course of the game, you're going to have Murray pop up. Murray is, as the name of the game implies, he's a bit of a jerk. Let's call him a jerk, and we'll stay family friendly. Murray's a jerk. So when Murray comes out, whichever player draws him off the top of the deck, you have to immediately play Murray. He doesn't go in your hand. He never lives in anyone's hand. You have to play him to the table. And the way you play Murray is you pick one of the other players at the table who has a swarm of flies, and you play Murray on that. Murray's going to eat all those flies, essentially discard them, take those points away from that player. However, that player has a couple things. There's a special fly, like I said, that says, nope, I'm going to cancel Murray on me. You can't play Murray. Murray would go to the discard pile in that case. The other thing you can do is there's a special card that's not a fly, that's the Wasp. And the Wasp can be played when someone tries to play Murray against one of your swarms. The Wasp essentially lets you pick a new target for Murray. So you're not hitting my stuff, I'm handing it over there. But you got to watch out, because someone else could play a Wasp and send it right back to you. Someone else could play that quote-unquote nope card and say, no, you can't play the Wasp. I'm going to cancel your Wasp. It's still hitting you. And so you're going to play through the entire deck of cards. When that gets done, you're going to reshuffle the discard pile. The card that starts your discard pile is the Hawk. It's a 20-point card. And the Hawk will never be in your hand at the end of the game. It will never be part of your score at the end of the game. The Hawk's potential is that you lose points for the Hawk. So essentially what you're going to do is you're going to play through the deck one time. You're going to reshuffle the discard pile, including the Hawk, into, and again, all of the Murrays that were in the discard pile, back into the deck. And then when someone draws the Hawk, the game will end immediately when someone either plays that Hawk, they choose to go out, and they play that Hawk to the discard pile, or they can swap the Hawk with one of the cards in the pond, and that would also cause it to go out. Or if you go through the entire deck a second time and the Hawk never gets played. Scoring is going to be based on the swarms that you have in front of you. You're going to lose points, face value of the points of the cards you have in hand. So if you had the Hawk in your hand and you didn't toss it away to end the game, and you go through that deck a second time, you're going to get stuck with negative 20 points. But then, so essentially, you're playing cards and taking actions to end your turn. You actually take a card from your hand and pass it to the next player. So the player to your left will get a card from your hand. You always have to pass to indicate my turn's over. But you have to be careful, because you can never have 0 cards in your hand. And what I mean by that is there were so many times when we played this game at game night on that Friday night where I had a Wasp in my hand. Someone would play Murray, but I couldn't play the Wasp, because by rule, I can never have 0 cards in my hand. So if I ever have just 1 card in my hand, I can't play that to counteract another player. So you always want to make sure you've got some extra cards in your hand there. Just a fun, goofy, little chaotic game to kill some time. So I picked that game up as well. And then the final stop I made on my way back to the booth that I was working was I stopped at Thunderworks Games. I had to pick up my Kickstarter backing for Metro Runner. This is a little game of basically kind of hack and network. You're essentially you're essentially a group of AI, or like AI type cyborgs, if you will, running around and completing jobs in the city, hacking different security systems and things like that for points. Really enjoyed my play of that, but I'll talk about that when we get to game night. Before I went to game night Friday night, though, I had an event. Flat River Games, distributor for tons of publishers, held an event for media folks, invite only, that was held at O'Reilly's Pub down the street from the convention center. And so it was basically, you went in, a bunch of their publishers were there showing off a couple of games, and you could sit down, you could play some stuff, you could take a look at some games, you got to look at it, talk to some publishers, share your information for your channel, get information from them so you could keep in touch. It was a very fun event. I'm going to say that right up front. It was a very fun event. They had food, drink, it provided as well while you were there. But I just want to talk about a couple of the games that I saw while I was there. So the first stop I did, I sat down and I played a game of Pinterest. Pentris. Pinterest. Not to be confused with the social media network where you pin your wedding stuff and your tattoo ideas. So Pinterest is a Tetris-style game where you literally have a vertical board that's sitting up on the table, and you're dropping Tetris-shaped polyominoes down the board, and the idea being that it must fall straight down like it would in Tetris, and be able to fill those things in. You're trying to collect different items or different shapes, different icons, if you will, in groups with the different pieces that have fallen down. And as you group those together, at the end of the round, you're going to pick three of the four, there's four different colors, you're going to pick three of them to score at the end of the round. And then all your tiles are going to stay there. You're going to play a second round, adding more to it, and adding it a third time. You're also going to get bonus points at the end of the game for any rows that you've completed. You're going to get bonus points there, and then it's the most points wins. It's a very light, very family-friendly game. I like the lightheartedness of the way it looks. You'll probably see, I'll probably have video for it, just an overview video of how it plays, and more in-depth look at that coming up in the future, here in the next few weeks. I also took a look at World Order. World Order is coming soon. I don't know if it's coming to Kickstarter or if it's coming straight to retail later this year, but this is published by the Hegemonic Project Games. This is the group that publishes Hegemony. If you've played Hegemony, you like Hegemony and that kind of raising up the society and balancing the state and the workers and the capital and all that. This takes Hegemony and blows it up to the world stage. So every player, I believe it plays 5 players. Every player will be controlling one of the 5 superpowered nations, and essentially is going to be trying to build up and become the most powerful nation over the course of by the end of the game. Very cool looking game. I'm looking forward to getting my hands on this and taking a look at it. I've yet to play Hegemony. I have several friends who've played it. All of them love it. I want to play it. I just haven't had the chance yet. And so being able to take that, where I'm just a class of people, and I'm going to blow that up on the world stage, and we're going to play, different countries that are vying for control of the world, essentially. It just sounds really cool, and if it sticks true to Hegemony and being able to, being kind of tied into socioeconomics and how all of that type of stuff works, and global politics, and kind of stays factual, it's even more fascinating to me. One of the big standouts at this Flat River group was Maestro Media. Maestro Media is doing a lot of IP games coming up. They've got a lot of IP coming. I talked to a representative there. Their hope is that by 2026 they'll be able to be doing their own original IP stuff. But right now they've got some obligations with some IPs. And what I saw at this event at O'Reilly's that Flat River put on, Maestro Media has some very cool things coming out. They had announced just prior to Gen Con, the announcement came out that they had signed and would be releasing a game called Happy Camper that stars Donald Duck. And you're basically out camping, and you're trying to put tents up in the woods and kind of stay safe, if you will. But it's Donald Duck and his nephews. And then you also have Daisy Duck and her nieces that are kind of part of the game. Looks very cool, very fun, and who doesn't love Donald Duck? And you're right back into that original kind of Disney IP, which is fantastic. Also got to take a brief look at Hello Kitty Day in the Park. With all Hello Kitty and friends. It's a cute little game, very lightweight, very easy to play. Tile laying game of building up the park and essentially having a picnic, which I really enjoyed the look of. Also took a more in-depth look at, I really wouldn't say an in-depth look, but more so than I did at Hello Kitty, is the Smurfs Hidden Village. This is a game where essentially the village for the Smurfs has been wiped out. Gargamel, who, kind of the villain of the Smurfs cartoon, Gargamel's wiped out your village, and this game is essentially a cooperative game where you're building the village back up, and trying to rebuild your houses. The little houses that we saw, even though they were in prototype form, were absolutely adorable. They've got little toppers on them, so when you get the house completed, you put the topper on the house to indicate that is a completed house. And then they were showing us that when you go to put everything back in the box, the house is constructed, out of like a paper or punchboard, cardboard material. And then the house that sits on it, you can actually flip it upside down and it sits down in, so everything goes back in the box neatly. So you don't have to worry about completely disassembling everything. And then 2 other games that they were showing off there that they had available. They had Streamer Standoff, which is a game that is available now to purchase. I believe it's like a $20 price point, but essentially each players take on the role of rival Twitch streamers and are trying to, they're basically racing to 20 million followers and see who can get there first. And then they also had a game called Bridge Constructor Breaking Point. I'm not familiar. This is also an IP game. I'm not familiar with the IP. Bridge Constructor is a mobile app of a game you can play on your phone. maybe on Steam. Like I said, I'm not familiar with the IP, but this one is a card game where you're using the cards to basically engineer your bridges, and then you have to like cars and trucks and vehicles of varying weights cross your bridges without without the bridges collapsing. So there was a lot going on there as well. I spent some time talking to a rep from Horrible Guild and played a game that when I first sat down at the table, I'm like, okay, this looks like a kid's game. The artwork on it's very cartoony, very lighthearted. It looks very much like a kid's cartoon, that you would see. However, this game was called Spotlight, and this game is a timed game, kind of a real-time game. You have a sheet in front of you, and then you have a little flashlight where your flashlight beams. So you have a little flashlight, and there's like a cardboard or a paper beam that comes out, and it slides under the clear plastic piece that is your board, if you will. Every player's board is different. And what's going to happen is you flip up a card that's going to say, hey, you need to find you find as many of these aliens or football players or wizards as you can. You're going to flip a timer. It's a 1-minute timer, I believe. You're going to move that flashlight around. And the way the flashlight, it's really neat, really innovative in that as you move the flashlight around, the flashlight is going to quote unquote illuminate a circle on your board that you can be able to see. And you're going to keep count of, if you're looking for aliens, every time you see an alien, you're going to count one. They're going to be in different poses and not necessarily look exactly like they do on the card, but you're going to keep count of the number of aliens. All players are doing this simultaneously. Everyone's looking for aliens. Your boards are completely different. However, every board has the same number of aliens on it, same number of football players, same number of wizards, same number of mermaids, whatever it is you're looking for. When the timer's up, you're going to set on your little dial secretly how many of them you found. Everybody will reveal those dials to see how many you found. You're then going to take that card that had the alien on it. You're going to flip it over. It's going to tell you how many aliens there are on everyone's board. So you'll know, I found 5 aliens. Oh, well, there were actually 10 of them? Okay, well, I only found half. You're going to score points based on, you're going to move ahead on a board based on how many of those you found. You're either going to move ahead 0, 1, 2, or I believe 3 stars in some cases. And they're just literally the number of spaces that you move forward on the board. There's also a moon that's chasing you on the board. If you're playing the cooperative version of this game, you don't want a player to get caught by the moon. And so when you're playing cooperatively, whoever's furthest ahead can make the choice to go backwards 1 space to move the furthest player back up 1 space to keep them away from the moon. There's also a die that you roll that gives the moon extra space to move as well. So you can also play it competitively, and you just score based on who found the most of these different objects. The cards that show you how many objects also have little dots on them to show you where on the board. You match, my specific board is this particular symbol. It'll show me where on my board those 10 aliens were, however many there were. Very cool, very fun. One of the things that can happen when you roll that die to move the moon is you can end up rolling a flashlight symbol with an X on it. That means for the next round, everybody has to flip their flashlight over, and you're now working with a weak battery flashlight. You still have the little circle that's going to show up. It's going to show things on your board, but it's a smaller circle because your flashlight's not as bright. Very cool, very innovative little game. One of the wait staff at O'Reilly's kept coming over and playing it when she had an ample minute. So it was definitely bringing people that may not necessarily be part of the gaming world. They were seeing us on the table going, what in the world is this? So that was a lot of fun. I then stopped over to table and talked to a rep from Synapsis Games. You've previous on the channel. If you haven't seen it, click over. I've got a video here for Synapsis game card game that they published called Tanuki. You may have already seen the video. If not, it's here on my channel. But I talked to them. They have a couple of games that are coming out, games that they've brought from other publishers. So they brought Rallyman Dirt from Grail Games, Holy Grail Games. But they're bringing Rallyman Dirt over and republishing it, keeping it going after that publisher went under. And they're going to be doing some additional expansions that will be adding, making sure that rather than the way that Kickstarter campaign was run, where you had all these tiny little expansions, here's an expansion that's just a box that's got 2 cards in it, and maybe a couple extra dice. They're actually going to be combining these into some more meaningful, more meaty expansions and putting those out. They're also redoing and putting out an updated version with updated art. Exact same gameplay. They're not changing the gameplay at all. Yokohama, that was part of TMG's lineup. This game, the new production of it looks absolutely gorgeous. dual layered player boards. And so your all your cubes and all your pieces and everything are going to stay in your player board. You don't have to worry about bumping those. It's a beautiful production. That'll be out later this year. Just looking forward to seeing more of that once it hits. Also stopped by the Yellow table, or iYellow, however you say it. It's Yellow. But they were showing off King of Tokyo Duel. This is a game that hasn't come out yet. It's a 2-player version of King of Tokyo. Everyone loves King of Tokyo. Everyone knows King of Tokyo. Very easy to play. You chuck your dice. You do your Yahtzee style. I want to save these dice, re-roll these. You do that 3 times, and then you either hit your opponent for some damage. You use hearts to heal yourself. This game adds a twist, though, in that there's a game board in the middle of the table where there is a fame marker and there's a destruction marker. So you can win by being the last monster standing. It's a 2-player game, so you're always going to be hitting your opponent. Your opponent's always going to be hitting you. Healing, gathering your energy cubes so that you can spin those cubes to buy cards, so you have superpowered cards that you can buy as well. There's a little bit of a twist to where at the end of your turn, if you choose not to buy or you can't buy, you get 1 energy cube as kind of a consolation prize. So you can make that strategic choice to not make a card purchase just so you can keep that cube or get that additional cube, maybe buy something better next turn. But then the cards, some of the dice faces have been changed as well to allow you to pull. You're always going to be pulling. I guess you could push as well, but you're always going to be pulling those the fame marker and or the destruction marker toward you. And if one of those markers reaches your side of the board, you win the game that way as well, by either doing the most destruction or being the most famous monster. Really cool, unique way of playing the game. They've essentially replaced the point scoring of King of Tokyo and replaced it with the fame and destruction markers, and basically added a tug of war element to the game, which was really neat to see and play and check that out. Then I went over and checked out Greater Than Games. They were showing off Compile. 2-player only card game. This game launched at Gen Con and was available to purchase right there at the show. It was their Gen Con release. I believe you can get it now either through their website, your local game store. Compile fascinates me. It was a fascinating game to see. You have, in the base game, you have 15 different, no, that's not right. You have 12 different, I guess, aspects of them. They call them protocols. So it's things like death, life, fire, water, gravity, psychic, spirit, speed, all these different aspects of life. And each player is going to have 3 of them that you're going to play. There's also an expansion pack that adds love, hate, and apathy. So you get 3 additional protocols that you can use. And essentially this game, so if I have, let's say I have darkness, death, and fire, very aggressive. But let's say those are the 3 protocols I've taken. Each of those protocols has 6 cards. And those 6 cards are going to get shuffled together to create an 18-card deck. And essentially you're going to draw a hand of 5 cards. On your turn, you're going to play 1 card. So if I'm playing a fire card, it has to go next to my fire protocol card. And it's essentially lane combat. So I have 3 protocols, my opponent has 3, so we have 3 lanes. And I'm going to be playing cards into these 3 lanes, according to which protocol I've lined up at the top of those lanes. Play a fire card, I do whatever says on that card. There's 3 boxes. There's row 1, row 2, row 3. You do them in order, just reading down the card. If I play a second card in that fire, though, I have to cover boxes 2 and 3. I can never cover box 1. I have to cover box 2 and 3. So that means I may have had an ongoing ability that just got covered that I've just turned off because now it's not visible. I can't read the card. However, if the top card I just played ever gets removed and exposes text on the card that was underneath, that text triggers again. So you have to really remember what's under your opponent's cards. So you have to be careful making them delete their cards and discard them because you may expose an ability. In fact, I lost a game of Compile because I forgot that my opponent had played a card. I removed a card and it let them rearrange their protocols. Essentially what you're trying to do is you're trying to get 10 points of one protocol and have more points than what your opponent has in the opposite lane. And then you can use your entire turn to compile. You delete all the cards in the lane, yours and your opponent's. You flip your card over and you essentially score a point. And it's a race to compile your 3 protocols. It's a fascinating game. A lot of push and pull. I've played this 2 or 3 times at this point. every game has felt completely different because the protocols are so different and they have different focuses as well. So you can play it super aggressive and do something like a Death, Darkness, and Hate or Death, Darkness, Fire, something like that. Or you can be more laid back and playing with Water that lets you rearrange protocols, and Speed that lets you play extra cards, Spirit lets you draw extra cards. And so there's all this really cool things that can happen with Compile. And then the final game I looked at when I was at the FRG event was Tower Up. This is a game for 2 to 4 players from Monolith Games. Sat down and played through a demo of this one. I'm not going to go into too much detail on it because I definitely will be doing another video on it, just giving you an overview and showing you how to play. But essentially, Tower Up, you have a game board that represents a big city. That city's broken into 5 districts, different colors, of course. And you're going to be building buildings on the board using plastic pieces that come in 4 colors, so they're white, black, gray, and brown. And you don't have to worry; they are very distinct colors. They were very careful as to these colors that they selected. But anyway, you're going to have these pieces that you're collecting of these different buildings. You're going to put them on the board. You're going to be building these towers up, and then you have every player has their own specific building topper in their color. So on your turn, you're either going to play a building down, grow all of the buildings around it, and then claim one of those buildings with a building topper, or you're going to take a card that will allow you to get some more plastic pieces and possibly move some of your scoring construction trucks up there. You're going to play till someone places their 10th building topper, finish out the round, and then most points wins. Fascinating game that was super fun to play. Looks very light when you first look at it, but there are some thinky rules there. But I'm going to save that for another video because I will definitely be covering that on this channel because I really enjoyed Tower Up. After the FRG event was over, I went to game night, sat down and played Comic Hunters with some friends, played a full 4-player game of Comic Hunters. We played a 5-player game of Murray the Ancient Frog. And then we played a 4-player game of a game I didn't pick up, but a friend had a copy of Sausage Sizzle from 25th Century Games, which was a dice rolling kind of push your luck game that played very quickly and was super fun. So that was a fun game night that we had there on Friday night. Saturday rolled around. I mentioned Friday was my shopping day. I did all my shopping on Friday. Because I went to the FRG event Saturday night, I fully intended to go to FRG's booth on Saturday night and pick up a copy, or Saturday during the day, and pick up a copy of Compile. I wanted Compile. Like I said, it fascinated me. It blew my mind when I saw it at the demo night on Friday night. So I picked it up at the booth along with the playmat that goes with it, that I feel like almost is a necessity because it makes it easier to pick the cards up. The cards are moving so much in this game. And then it also has your player turn order right in front of you, so you're not having to refer to a player reference card or anything like that. So I picked that up while I was in the booth. I also saw copies of Tower Up. Now, Tower Up doesn't hit retail, won't be available until September, so about a month away. But I did pick up a copy of Tower Up at the Gen Con booth as well, because it was there and it was available for sale. So we picked Compile and Tower Up because they're phenomenal. So even though I did all my shopping on Friday and was done with buying things other than food, of course, from the game standpoint, I did make 2 more purchases on Saturday because of Flat River Games event on Friday night. I then had another meeting with Flat River Games. This was a one-on-one, not really a one-on-one, it was a group meeting with Danny Lowe, the marketing genius at Flat River, and got to take a look at a game called Babylon. This is coming to Kickstarter later this year from Geek Attitude Games. This is a game where you have a grid on the table, and you are basically you get these little pillars, and you're going to be using these pillars and stacking tiles up that you're drafting from the middle of the table, stacking these tiles up and building this 3-dimensional model of essentially the Gardens of Babylon. And the garden has different features, so your tiles that you're taking have icons on them that show you where you have to place statues, where you have to place staircases, where you have to place fountains, and then there are places where you can. There's another feature I'm forgetting. There are 4 features. I don't remember what the other feature is. It's been a minute. It's been about a week since I played this. And you're going to score points based on how high you can build your tower up and the features that are on those levels. But you have to make sure, so like if you're building a fountain, it's going to be on 2 adjacent tiles, but that fountain has to, the 2 fountain icons have to be next to each other and adjacent to one another as well. Bridges, that's the other one. Bridges is the other one. Bridges work the same way, except there's a gap in there, so your bridge is going to cover a gap. Your staircases have to go from a staircase icon to a staircase icon, but on different levels. So you'll have to use some taller pillars. So you can turn in pillars that your short pillars, your short normal pillars. You can turn a couple of them in to get a tall pillar, so that you can build higher levels and be able to get staircases. And then the statues just cover things up and are worth extra points as well, based on the levels that they're on. So this was a really cool, neat, fun, strategy game, little spatial puzzle to it. But in a way, it also had some dexterity, because you're stacking these pieces as you're building this garden up. So there's some dexterity element to it as well. As far as I know, there really aren't any penalties for you knocking things over. It's just your garden's gonna fall apart and you got to rebuild the thing. So, but I had a lot of fun with Babylon. I'm looking forward to seeing more later when that hits later this year. As I was leaving that meeting, Flat River was handing out review copies to the media folks that were there. They handed out a bag of things. Grabbed the bag, left. I was leaving that meeting to go straight to game night. Saturday night's a night we always hang out. All of us hang out. We usually have about 20 people or so that are hanging out playing on multiple tables, and we're usually there till 1, 2 in the morning on Sunday, so we're there a long time. So I was heading from the FRG meeting, the Flat River meeting, directly to game night. So I took this bag, took it to my car so I could repack things and get ready for game night. When I got it to my car, 2 of the review copies that were in the bag were Tower Up and Compile, the games that I had previously purchased during the day on Saturday. So I ended up coming home from Gen Con with 2 copies of Compile and 2 copies of Tower Up. So who knows what I'll do with those. I know the Tower Up and Compile are definitely going to be on camera. They're definitely going to be overviews that are filmed for those, and I'll give more details, more rules breakdowns of those in future video. In that bag of review copies was also a review copy of Pentris, which I described earlier. I'll definitely be putting that one on video as well. And then a game called Open Season that is you're basically monsters that are you're tired of heroes interfering with your stuff, and so you're in your life, and so you're basically capturing these heroes. And if you've ever been into like a hunting lodge and you've seen, a deer head or a moose head or some kind of animal as hunter, put it mounted on the wall as kind of a trophy. That's essentially what you're doing in this game. It's card play, but each of the cards are, a different hero, their head mounted on your wall. So you're basically decorating your cabin with all these heroes you've defeated as this villain. And there's different set collections, different abilities. When you play cards on the board, they trigger different abilities. And it's over the course of, it's either 11 or 13 rounds. I don't remember how many. I think it's 11. And then most points win. So I'll probably put that one on camera as well. That one is on Open Season if you're interested in checking it out now before you see my video. I do know that Open Season is on Board Game Arena, so if you're on Board Game Arena, you can pop over there and play it right now and learn it there. So I've played it there once just to check it out. Got to game night. Game night was a big night. Like I said, we play a lot of games there. We played Rafter 5. This is from Oink Games. This is a game that I don't have. I didn't pick it up at the show, but a friend had it. I actually played it twice, and at 2 different times. We played it to kick the night off, and we played it pretty close to the end of the night. But essentially, Rafter 5, you're going to take the 2 boxes, and if you're familiar with Oink Games, they have the big, like, kind of rectangular, not big, they got the little rectangular boxes. So Deep Sea Adventure, Scout, Startup, some of their popular games. Kobayakawa is probably one of my favorites. But anyway, you're going to take the box, get everything out of the box, you're going to stack that box up, and then there's a card that sits on top of the box that looks like a raft. And then you've got these long cards that look like ocean water, that are kind of just scattered around the base, on the table around the base of these boxes that you've set up. And then there are 5 little characters, little people that you stand up on the boxes. And on your turn, you're going to pick up one of those characters. You're going to grab one of the ocean cards. You're going to flip it over to the raft side. You're going to set it on the box somewhere where it's not knocking anything over. And then you're going to put the person you picked up, you're going to put back on that raft card that you just played. It has to in some way be touching the card you just played. Then you have little treasure boxes, treasure chests that you have in front of you. I think you have 10 of them. But you're going to take one of those and you're also going to put it so that it is also touching the raft piece. As you build this out, though, you're forced to start putting these pieces out past the edges of the box. So you're trying to balance everything to keep things from falling over. Essentially what happens is when you're placing things, if you knock things over and people and treasure chests fall down, off of this stack. Any treasure chests that are your color go back in your supply. Any treasure chests that belong to other players or other player colors go on your player board. And when you get your fifth one, I believe it's fifth, when you get your fifth one, you lose the game and everybody else wins. So it's one of those games where there's a single winner and everybody else wins. I will say, of all the gaming I did at Gen Con, Rafter 5 is the only game that I won. I won it both times we played it because someone else lost. So it wasn't necessarily I did really well. Every other game I played at Gen Con, I lost. So didn't have much luck gaming. But that was Rafter 5 from Oink Games. We also played Tower Up. Taught that to, I had a copy of Tower Up. I taught it to my wife. I taught it to a couple of very good friends as well. We played a 4-player game. Really enjoyed that play. And then I also got to play a game of Compile with a friend of mine. Just a 2-player game. We had some other people that wanted to watch because they wanted to see how the game played and get a feel for it. So a friend of mine and I played it while a couple other people watched so they could get a feel for it. And then I ended the game Saturday night by playing my Kickstarter copy of Metro Runner that I picked up from Thunderworks Games. This game it's fascinating. There's so much you can do. The turns are very snappy. You literally move your little hacker piece around the board. You're moving it in a circle around the board. You can move 1 or 2 spaces for free, but then you can start discarding cards from your hand or discarding cubes from your board to move extra spaces. And then you're going to take the action of either the space that you landed on or the overall action that is in your district. The map is broken. It's basically a city that's broken into districts, and each district has its own actions you can take as well. Really cool game of, just hacking security systems and that kind of stuff. So you're kind of a shady character inside this, futuristic city. I had an absolute blast with this despite the fact that I lost. But it was so fun. Sunday was a little bit tiring of a day because we were out late on Saturday. I think Sunday was about a 3 hours worth of sleep for me. Did more booth work for Loot Effect USA. Just a reminder, mypuzzle.com. Upload your picture. Use code GenCon24 by the end of August. Save yourself 50% on a custom puzzle. Just another shameless plug here at the end. I did get a chance to get outside of the booth a little bit on Sunday as well. I was able to sit down and demo a prototype copy of Mistborn, the deck building game. This is a deck building game designed by John D. Clare of Space Base fame and several other card crafting games, and will be published by Brotherwise Games, coming out later this year, I believe in November, and going straight to retail. So this is not a Kickstarter. This is going to go straight to retail. What made me want to sit down and play it, though, is because it's set in the world of Mistborn, which is a trilogy of books from author Brandon Sanderson. I love Brandon Sanderson's books. I love his world building. And this is a deck builder set in the world of Mistborn, where heroes have the ability to essentially burn metals within their body and do various things. You can push a metal, you can pull a metal, you can even flare a metal, which burns the metal up really quickly, but makes it more strong. And in this game, it's a typical deck builder. The character you're playing, you have a deck of 10 cards that are corresponding with the character you picked. So everybody has a deck of 10 cards, but it's slightly different based on the character you're playing. And you're going to play those cards down. Some of the cards require you to burn metals, so you have a player board that basically has a cube that you'll move up your cube once at the start of every turn, so you're kind of getting stronger and stronger and stronger as the game goes on. You're able to burn more metals. You're always able to flare one additional metal, no matter how many metals you're able to burn. And then you're also unlocking special abilities as you level up, quote unquote level up, and get stronger as the game goes on. But some of the cards you play, will require you to burn metals. You have tokens on your player board that represent each of the metals. I can burn steel to do some damage, or then I can flare another metal. If I flare a metal, I have to turn the token that I play face down, so it's kind of on a darkened, like a blackened side, to show that I flared that metal and burnt up that metal. But I was able to use the ability of those cards. If I choose not to burn or don't flare that particular metal card that I've played out of my hand, I don't get the ability on that card. So there's kind of a cost to be able to play some of the cards. And then you have, coins that you're able to use to buy cards out of the middle of the table. There are quest icons that let you go on missions. There are mission cards set off the table, and you can score points by completing those missions as well. But it's interesting because when you're playing the game and you pull back, when you've discarded all your cards, you pull your metal tokens back. The metals that you burned go back to your board and are available to be burned again on your next turn. If you flared a metal, however, that token or that particular metal can't be burnt or flared again until you discard a card from a future hand that has a vial that will refill that metal. So if I have chosen to flare pewter to take an action because I really wanted the action on that card, pewter is not available to me until I discard a different pewter card later. So discarding it to refill my pewter, then that card, because I discarded it to refill, that action on that card I discarded obviously is not available to me anymore. So you're going to have to basically skip a future action of that particular metal to refill it, which is a really cool concept. Had a great time with it. We didn't play a full game. But then because we demoed it, they did hand out promo copies of Vin, who's essentially, she's one of the main characters of the books. So there's a promo card that's different than the character of Vin that will be available in the game when that game hits in, like I said, I believe November. Also did a demo of a game coming up. This is coming to Kickstarter later this year from, it's designed by Phil Walker Harding and published by AEG. This is Misfit Heroes. Misfit Heroes is just a game about essentially trying to collect heroes. It looked like a little bit of a set collection game. There really wasn't a lot of information. I did get a picture of the box. I loved the artwork of it. It's super adorable, and it's Phil Walker Harding, and so it just on name alone, I'm interested in taking a look at this when it hits Kickstarter because Phil does some great designs with the games that he does. Sunday was also a day that I saw some let's call them online friends that I got to meet in real life for the first time. I didn't get pictures with all of them. I'm very bad when I'm in the moment. I'm very bad at taking pictures of folks. Because or even of games. If I'm sitting there playing a game, I'm usually pretty bad about taking pictures of that gameplay because I'm so enthralled in the gameplay. And it's the same when I'm at a convention and I meet folks that I know from online. I've either seen their content somewhere or I've interacted with them through a Twitch stream, a Discord channel, something like that. And I'm so enthralled with conversation and meeting that person that I just completely neglect to take a picture. It happened. It happened when I was at the both times on Friday. I stopped by the Capstone booth to take a look at Pagan, which is a two-player game. That's another game. I didn't even mention it. Friday when I was shopping, I bought Pagan, which is a two-player game, a witch versus a witch hunter. Very fascinating. Not going to go into depth because, again, that will be one that will definitely be on my channel as an overview because I really enjoyed the gameplay of that. But while I was at Capstone's booth, Becca Scott of Good Time Society was demoing. She did a quick little half-hour demo, a little bit of gameplay. Talked to her briefly. Completely neglected to get a picture with her, but she's a very positive individual within the gaming space, both board games and card games, trading card games. She does a lot with Magic the Gathering, and she does a lot with RPGs. I know I didn't get a chance to go, but she was part of a Call of Cthulhu live play that took place during Gen Con. So very positive person and force within the gaming industry and gaming of all, TCG, RPG, board games. She does it all, which is awesome. And then it also, when I was at the FRG event, the Flat River Groups event on Friday, I went up and introduced myself to Danny Standring, who I've seen her content. I love her content. She's hilarious. She does great reviews and overviews of things. And I don't read them, but she does. She also does spicy book reviews, which are hilarious, the way she describes them and talks about things. I always make sure and share those with my wife when a new one goes up, because they're just funny. But I introduced myself to Danny, got to meet her. Again, completely neglected to get a picture to say, hey, look, I met Danny. But people I did see. Saw my good friend Connor McGoy. I see him all the time at conventions. I love Connor. He's a great dude. Got my mandatory convention bear hug from Connor. If you've not had a Connor bear hug and you're a hugger, if you're not a hugger, completely understandable. But if you're a hugger, find Connor at a convention. Get a Connor bear hug. It's one of the best bear hugs you'll ever have in your life. So I saw Connor. While I was talking to Connor, he was also talking to Grant Lyon, who does some board game content, also a comedian. He's done some comedy shows at various conventions as well. So I finally got to meet Grant. I did get a picture with Grant and Connor, and so that was exciting. And then I have, over the past probably been the past year now at this point, I have participated and taken place in Twitch streams and the Discord channel for Bonzinator. I've really I really enjoy the community that she's been able to build through the Discord and the work that her moderators do to make sure everything stays family friendly. She's a family-friendly Twitch streamer who streams board games and video games, and it's just she's just got this community of people that all care about each other, are all very kind-hearted with one another. Like I said, it's family-friendly. Her stream stays family-friendly. Her Discord channel stays family-friendly. I highly recommend, if you've not checked her out, if you like to watch board games or video games on Twitch, check her out. She streams every night, Monday through Friday, usually around like 5:30 to 6 Pacific time. The streams usually start, and they'll run for multiple hours on end. So it's just a fun community to be a part of. And I actually got to meet Bonzinator on Sunday of Gen Con. She was working the Floodgate booth for Floodgate Games, doing a lot of social media content for them, creating reels, doing some learn to plays, that kind of stuff. Got to meet her at the booth on Sunday. And then also, while meeting her, I also got to meet another fellow colleague of the Discord community who goes by the name online of Gator Dave. It was great to meet them. I did get a picture with them. I made sure to get a picture with them because one of my goals of Gen Con was to meet Bonzinator, because like I said, I've been interacting with her and her community for the past year and definitely wanted to meet her. So it was thrilling to be able to do that, and exciting. And she's just as kind in person as she is online, and just as energetic. And this was Sunday into the con. She'd been running around the entire time, but she still had energy. She was still happy to talk to people, and just kind of put herself out there, which is awesome. And like I said, I got to meet Gator Dave as well. It was great to meet him in person because he's fun to joke around with online. So getting to joke around in person was a lot of fun. So I'm going to wrap things up. I've been jabbering for about an hour now. If you're still with me listening, thank you. Totally appreciate it. If you're not a subscriber, subscribe button's down there. You can click the little bell icon so you get notified when I post new videos. Videos are slowly trickling back out. Getting back out to doing things about once a week. Here, getting a new video up on the channel. That may even increase. It just depends on how things go. But right now, we're starting slow to get back into the swing of things, so I can get back to providing board game overviews and those types of things to you. If you have any questions about Gen Con, or if you want to just drop in the comments below what you liked about Gen Con, what you were excited about, what you picked up, how big was your Gen Con haul, if you're not too ashamed to admit it. Mine was shockingly small this year compared to past years. But if you want to just chat Gen Con, down in the comments below, feel free to drop a comment, ask questions. I'd love to interact with you folks. And hopefully we'll see you here next time when the next video pops out. And until that happens, keep gaming, friends.